Chapter 7. The three Marines were in one of the third-level inodoros, crowded into the space designed for a single toilet and sink. The walls had eyes all over third base, but they figured the crapper ought to be safe enough. The room was made yet tighter by the backpack one of the men had propped on the white plastic HWDS-C, Human Waste Disposal System, chemical in military parlance. "How much did you get?" one of the Marines asked. It was Renus, Wolfgang R., private first class. 3 days if we stretch it, the Marine balancing the knapsack said. He was Peterson, Sean J., corporal. "Shit," the third Marine said. "It's 4 days to the civilian terraforming colony. 5 if we stick to the canyons." Magruder, Jason S., also PFC. "So we'll be hungry when we get there," Peterson said. "Listen, I was pushing to get this many meals. Spears has everything on this fucking base inventoried, down to the paper clips. Besides, the crawler will have E-rations, carbocons." "Great, if you like greasy sawdust," Magruder said. "Hey, you can fucking stay here if you'd rather." Magruder shook his head. "Like hell." Renus said, "You think the civilians will take us in? And keep quiet about it?" Peterson shrugged. "They've dealt with Spears. They know he's over the edge. They'd be worried about him thinking they had a hand in helping us, if they did or not. My guess is, they'll hide us and tell him they never heard of us." "Still risky," Magruder said. "Like I said, you can stay here. Sooner or later, you'll stumble over some reg you never heard of, and you know what that means." Magruder nodded. "Yeah, baby food." "How long you figure we got?" That from Renus. "Couple, 3 hours maybe," Peterson said. "Spears and Powell will play mad doctor with the stowaways. Our general likes to watch the implants. I think it gives him a hard-on when those things shove their eggs down somebody's throat. If we can get to the 1,000 canyons and the heat faults, they won't be able to see us on IR. The crawler's camo should cover us from visual." The three men looked at one another. "At least it's a chance," Peterson said. They filed out of the inodoro into the hallway. At the South Lock, Patton, Robert T., PFC, was on security. He leaned against the wall, his carbine propped at an angle next to him. He looked up, saw somebody approaching. He smiled, but didn't bother to assume any kind of guard-ready position. Sloppy work, but he doubtless had the same attitude about lock duty as most Marines. You couldn't get in from outside unless you had the admit codes, and if you did, you were okay. You could get out. But who would want to? The planetoid wasn't what you'd call a pleasure dome, now was it? "Hey, Renus, you come to keep me company?" Renus drew near. "Take some more of your money playing cards, you mean?" "Nah, I wish. Decker sent me to relieve you. Circulating pumps on 4 are showing red in the backup chamber. Guess who is the only qualified pump tech on duty?" "Fuck," Patton said. "Red means automatic suit up. Why didn't somebody call me when the cocksucker went yellow?" "Don't ask me, Bobby. I don't run things around here." Patton pushed away from the wall, stepped across the hallway toward the computer terminal inset into a panel at chest level. "I'll punch it into the security comm, and it'll be all yours, pal. Can't be too careful these days." The guard couldn't see Renus pull what looked like a sock full of something heavy from under his shirt. "Sorry, Bobby," Renus said. "Huh?" Renus slammed the sock down on Patton's head. It made a sound like a thick rope slapping a plastic barrel full of liquid soap. Tiny slivers of gray flew from the sock on impact. Lead shavings, sparkling like glitter under the overhead lights, drifted onto the unconscious man's downed form. "Let's go!" Renus yelled. Peterson and Magruder came running up. Each of them had a carbine. Renus grabbed Patton's weapon. They had the codes for the inner lock door and cycled it open quickly. The outer lock door's codes were something else. While Peterson took a stab at the computer override, Magruder pulled climate suits from the racks. He and Renus shrugged their way into the suits. "Not gonna happen," Peterson said. "Security seals are dogged down tight. We'll have to burn the sucker. I'm trashing the alarms." Magruder, his helmet in place, the suit tabbed shut, nodded and moved to the door. He pulled the plasma cutter he'd stolen from Supply and thumbed the cutter up to full. "Watch your eyes," he said. The brilliant plasma jet spewed, turning the inside of the lock into noon on a desert. Peterson kept his eyes covered until he got his climate suit on and the polarized faceplate snapped down. It didn't take long. The security bars were designed to keep people outside from getting in, and the plasma jet ate through them almost as fast as Magruder could move the welder. Durasteel went bright orange, then flowed molten and fell in fat drops. "That's it! That's the last one! Go, go, go!" The lock door started to open, then ground to a stop with a shriek still audible in the escaping air. Stuck where a flange of partially melted metal caught the frame, but it was wide enough for the men to get through. They clambered from the station into the cold darkness and ran toward the motor pool. The gravity generators extended the field outside the domes for 100 meters around, so they didn't bound into space. The trio of deserters piled into the first crawler they reached. After a moment, the multi-wheeled machine lurched into the darkness and was gone. Spears leaned back in his chair, watching the video on his holoproj. "Replay security cam 77. 0630 hours. The air above his desk lit with the images of 3 Marines in the loo. "Increase volume 1/8. Continuous tracking." He watched it again, listened to the 3 Marines plotting their desertion. When they left the toilet stall, another hidden cam just outside the inodoro picked them up without missing a beat. The scene at the security station played itself. The downed guard didn't get any sympathy from Spears. If he'd been doing his job, he would have stopped the deserters. Well, there was a place for men like the guard, down in the hatchery. Spears watched with interest the burnout through the locked door. They moved well as a team, the trio. Too bad they chose treason instead of duty. "General." Spears glanced up from the projector to the door. "Come." The door opened and Powell stood there. Spears waved one hand and shut the projection over his desk off. "Yes?" "The squirt has arrived from Bibliocom. In the system." "Query number?" Powell gave it to him. Spears tapped it manually into his terminal. "What's the Marine's name?" "Wilks." He tapped that in. The air blossomed again with the info crawl. Images fluttered into life to join the words and figures. A practiced speed reader, Spears scanned the material. "Well, well. We sure this Marine is the same one in ISOMED?" "Got a positive ID from his magnetic femur implant. It's him." "This sergeant has had more hands-on experience with wild strain aliens than just about anybody except that civilian. What's her name?" "Ripley, sir." "Right. Nobody knows where she is, but we got Wilks right here. How's that for luck? Fate smiles on us, Powell." "Sir. And if you'll scan the androids file, you'll see another coincidence, sir." "Give me the gist." "He was one of the specials unit, bred to travel to the aliens' homeworld, under the command of Colonel Stevens, prior to Terran infestation." "Stevens. I remember him from Milcom HQ. A desk jockey. Couldn't find his dick with both hands." "The primary mission, retrieval of a specimen, was apparently a failure, sir. Records of the trip are incomplete. By the time the survivors reached Earth, the infestation was in the advanced stages." "And the woman?" "No records on her. She's not military, and we can't pull up any history." Powell shrugged. "You know how civilians are about record-keeping in the best of times, sir." Spears nodded absently. "Well, our sergeant and the VAT boy have got actual combat experience against the wild strain. Much too valuable to turn into incubators. At least until after we find out what we can from them." "That's what I thought, sir." "Let's go have a little talk with them." "Sir." Billie felt a coldness grip her legs, bands of rough steel encircling her ankles, pulling her knees apart. She blinked, glanced down, saw she was naked. Something wet and slimy dripped onto her bare belly. A clear, ropey jelly. She looked up, but couldn't see the source. There was a kind of fog hovering over her, only centimeters from her face, a featureless gray.
"I need you,"
came a deep voice. No, not a voice. The words were unspoken. They were in her mind. They were the thoughts of a lover, but not a human lover. The fog swirled away, and teeth glittered under a coat of clear slime. White needles set in a massive black jaw on a long, impossibly long head that flared into wide, flat, branched antlers. Billie gasped, fear filling her, every cell in her body straining to contain it.
"Lean back."
Unable to resist the command, Billie arched her neck, saw just behind her a massive, fleshy egg, easily the size of a garbage can. Flaps at the top of the egg opened, spidery webbing stretching and breaking. It was like the blossoming of an obscene flower, petals spreading wide in a photographic time-lapse hurry. Crab-like legs reached over the folded flaps, long, fleshless finger bones with sharp tips, questing, exploring, looking for something, looking for Billie. She opened her mouth to scream, and a glob of the slime from the monster above fell onto her chin, oozed into her mouth, over her cheeks, into her eyes. Billie tried to swallow, but it was too much.
"I need you,"
the monster's thoughts tried to soothe.
"Do not be afraid. It will be good."
No! Billie came up on the cot, yelling the word. "Easy, easy," Wilks said. He was next to her, holding her shoulders, and on the floor, balanced on one hand, the other hand on her leg, Mitch. Billie blew her breath out in a big sigh, shook her head. There was no need to say it. Wilks knew. He dreamed too. She looked at Mitch. Did androids dream? "Up and at 'em, people," came a voice from the entrance to the cell. A pair of armed Marines stood there. "General wants to see you," one of them said. "Tell him our calendar is full," Wilks said. The Marines grinned. The same one said, "Not me, Sarge. You tell him. Move out." He waved the carbine. Wilks looked at Billie and Mitch, shrugged. "Well, since you insist." With Billie pushing Mitch on his cart, the three of them left the cell.